Well, I think you nailed it when you talked at the top about intentionally sort of setting the global economy on fire. It's part of the playbook. It's not just disruption at home, but abroad as well. And it is good to see, our partners, as long as they remain our partners, saying, hey, we're drawing the line in the sand here. Now, we'll see how much they back that up. But at least they're not, bending over so many, from lawyers to others in this country have started to do.
We're going to talk a lot about what this means for American families, the way in which this is making our lives worse in so many ways. But I also have to say, I heard the new Canadian Prime Minister in a speech talk about how America is ceding the mantle of global economic leadership. And it really pained me, because this is a leader who on Monday, meaning Donald Trump, could wake up and change his mind, right? He could willy-nilly decide, but we cannot get back the trust and the faith that has already been lost from our allies across the globe.
The people cannot get back the money that they've lost in their 401ks and their pensions because the market is going like this. Can I just note, I got an email from Steve this morning. Steve watches the show. We love Steve. And Steve just got back from a Viking cruise tour with he and his wife, and they did Southeast Asia. And they talked about the fact that their tour guide in Hanoi was telling them about the new Trump club coming, the golf course coming to Hanoi, Vietnam. And he also read it in the local newspapers, and then obviously was very shocked to get home and see what was happening with the tariff situation and Vietnam. So I'm just saying, Steve had questions, emoluments. He was like, questions. Where's the oversight hearing? I'm like, Steve, you're asking the right questions. So joining us now, someone that can answer those questions, is Congressman Robert Garcia. He's a Democrat from California, and former Florida Congressman David Jolly. He is an MSNBC political analyst. Anybody want to answer Steve's question, right, Congressman?
I mean, look, I think, we should be very concerned about the tariffs and what's happening right now. This is the single most disruptive thing that Trump could do to the economy. This is the biggest tax increase that Americans are going to see in a generation. And what people need to understand is that the price of goods are going to go up. They may not see it immediately, but it's going to take over the next few weeks and months. There will be increases. People have been anticipating the tariffs. A lot of large retailers, grocery stores. They didn't anticipate how big it was going to be. And so now this is major disruption for America's ports, the supply chain, and small businesses that are dependent on imports and exports. This is incredibly damaging to the economy, and honestly, it's a slap in the face to the global marketplace and to all of our allies as well.
David, I'm going to play a little bit from Jerome Powell, who, in speaking at the Society for Advancing Business Editing and Writing, had this to say about what this moment is relative to higher inflation.
While uncertainty remains elevated, it is now becoming clear that tariff increases will be significantly larger than expected. And the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth. While tariffs are highly likely to generate at least a temporary rise in inflation, it's also possible that the effects could be more persistent.
So the possible effects could be more persistent, and one of those effects, goes to what Simone and I and Alicia were talking about before, and that is, well, how the impact is on my 401k. I have a buddy of mine we kind of got this rolling track now since the Dow dropped the first time 900 points. And he lost $15,000. Well, he lost $17,000 yesterday. So he's down in his retirement $32,000 in 3 weeks. He's not getting that money back in another 3 weeks. How do you see the longer term horizon relative to inflation, not just the tariff piece, but the domestic economy for families and communities that are going to have to struggle through higher prices, fewer resources available for retirement because it's just evaporating because Donald Trump doesn't give a damn about your money?
Yeah, Michael, let's start with a snapshot in time, a real statistic measurable by consumer confidence. Donald Trump has had a greater impact on economic uncertainty than COVID-19 did. Think about that. In a matter of 75 days, Donald Trump has proven worse than COVID for economic uncertainty. That's your buddy. That's families across the country. Those are consumers, low income, high income, wherever they are. And I think what's fascinating with this issue that we may not see with others in the same way, and I agree with Robert, there's a latency to this where it's going to get much worse, is, Donald Trump kind of mastered the low propensity, low information space. Whether because his message was right or in this last election he turned out new voters and got more new voters to turn in his direction. But it was a low information space that kind of ignored, as we know, Donald Trump does, the nuance of policymaking or the secondary or tertiary effect of promises that can't be kept. Donald Trump just says, hey, I'm going to fight for you. You're going to be better off, all these things. And it cracks through the low information space. A lot of issues don't, because federal policy making is clunky, because there's latency, because maybe it doesn't impact people's home directly. This one does. Donald Trump is actually shattering the low propensity, low information space with all bad news. It is economic anxiety. It is higher prices. It's why we see now Donald Trump being measured as being worse than COVID, because the low propensity space is saying, hold on, what just happened? And I think what Donald Trump is really missing here, we know he doesn't understand the economics. That is absolutely clear by his language and his behavior. But to Alicia's point about the world economy kind of moving on, I'm not sure Donald Trump realizes that the world economy may not need the United States of America in 2025. In the past, in trade wars, we were the heavyweight where maybe we knew we could win. I'm not sure we win this trade war. You're seeing other nations begin to align. Other nations begin to say, well, we will replace America as a trading partner with this other country, or we will create new regional trading agreements. There is a good possibility that Donald Trump just launched a trade war that doesn't just cool off, doesn't just return back to baseline, but a trade war that the United States loses. And it is because of his ignorance, but also because of his vanity that he's gotten us into this. I don't know how he gets us out of it, truly.
Let's talk about the ignorance and the vanity. While all of this is happening, Representative Garcia, you got the President of the United States busy golfing. And it's not just that he's golfing. That's fine. Everybody deserves a break. The problem is also that he's doing it on our dime. This is new reporting from the HuffPost. We, taxpayers, have been floating the tab for his second-term golf excursions. That number crossing the $26 million mark. So I just want to get this straight. They are going into federal agencies that provide vital services to our children, to our seniors. They are slashing those budgets. They are getting rid of federal employees. But we have found $26 million for the President of the United States to drive around his golf course. Am I getting that right, Congressman?
I mean, that's absolutely right. I mean, they should be sending DOGE to go and investigate all of Donald Trump's golfing trips. The simple fact that the day after and the days after he basically crashed the market, destroyed our economy, hurt workers, is going to raise the cost of housing, because actually construction of housing is going to get dramatically more expensive. And all of this is happening around us. Our global partners are terrified. Workers are scared. The port industry is in chaos and in a panic. And he goes out golfing. This is the President of the United States. He could care less about what the American people are going through. He campaigned on lowering prices. Prices are now going up. They're going to continue to go up over the months ahead. So this is a person that is not ready for the presidency. He could care less about the average American worker. And people should be pissed. People should be terrified. And what I'm hearing from port executives across the country is that we're not prepared for the impact these tariffs are going to make. And people need to understand this is a historic tax increase on the American public. Historic tax increase.
David, real quick, I want to pick up on a point that you made a little bit ago and expand it when you're talking about what our trading partners are going to do amongst themselves. Here's the other little interesting piece. You have states like California and a couple of other states that are beginning to say to our global partners, hey, we're not down with this. Why don't you and I, the state of California, the state of New York, work a deal, because these tariffs are not our play, so that we can keep our economy. We have an economy like the size of a state like California. They can do that. How do you see the states playing a role going forward in sort of isolating themselves from the broader tariff pie by trying to strike a side deal, if you will, with Europe or some other individual countries?
I actually think that gets in some really tricky areas that I hope are successful. I'm not sure they will be once you bring in the federal government and their ability to excise taxes. But I love that states are thinking that way, because they're thinking about, how do we protect our consumers? How do we protect our people? How do we protect our voters? And, you know, to this notion of other nations moving on as well, what's missing here is Donald Trump does not have a vision for what he's trying to get out of this. When Republicans who are freaking out trying to defend him say, just give it some time, it will fix things. What are we trying to fix? We have historically tight labor markets. Wages are going up. Inflation has steadied and was coming down. What is the problem we're trying to fix? Because if Donald Trump wants to domesticate industries, he hasn't given us that vision of how to do that. And oh, by the way, if you pull that off, if you start manufacturing tennis shoes here in the United States, do you know how much those shoes are going to cost if you re-domesticate that industry? Nothing about the economics here work. I'll tell you where individual states are going to get involved in this in the most powerful way, and we saw it Tuesday night in the special elections. It's when voters rise up and use their ballot to say, we're not going in this direction anymore. That's where not just Donald Trump, he won't be on the ballot again, he'll feel it. But those down-ballot Republicans, those governors, representatives, senators, they're going to feel it. And at some point, there are going to be cracks in this allegiance to Trump's tariffs.
Congressman, I want to give you 30 seconds on the California piece, because that story, that headline for me, stuck. What do you thought?
Gavin Newsom saying he's going to seek trade deals.
Right.
And I think that's right. I mean, look, I think, first of all, we do more trade than any other state. The largest seaports in America are the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. I represent the port of Long Beach. We're going to have to work with countries directly. I mean, he's causing massive chaos right now to the California economy. We're a dependent economy on trade. And that's not just for California, but the rest of the country. And so our trading partners are incredibly angry, as they should be. And Donald Trump has no idea what he's doing with the economy. I mean, it's crazy.